The NXL Major League Paintball Lone Star Open has concluded this past weekend. And we're going to talk about it this week on Old Guy Paintball. Hello everyone, my name is Craig and I am the host. We had a very exciting event last weekend at the Lone Star Open. It had a lot of positive things came out of it. And personally, I thought it was probably one of the best events so far this year in paintball. I'll start off with the fact that we're going to give Edmonton Impact congratulations to their tough win over San Antonio X Factor 3-2. X Factor made it from the play-in games as a wild card all the way to the finals. So we also give them a shout out that it's a tough road and they made it interesting all the way to the end. In fact, they even knocked out Red Legion on the way to the finals. It was good to see them back in the finals. So, props to them as well. Also, I think what made this event very exciting was the fact that 4 teams went undefeated in round robin or pool play, which I thought was pretty amazing. And, it's a tough competition and it's tough to go undefeated. And 4 teams did. Also had very good outings from Seattle Uprising, New Orleans Hurricanes, who went and made it to the semifinals, which is good for them. We also saw Infamous and Baltimore Arsenal back in the Sunday Club, which was good for them as well. It was nice to see some, different teams and, the teams that seemed to have been a little bit of a struggle turn in and have a good outing. So with that made it a very nice event to see that on Sunday, and it was pretty competitive in all the matches. Red Legion was in there, and so was Paintball Fit, but they got knocked out in the quarterfinals. So it was kind of good to see, some new teams get in there. But also what made this interesting was, this is really funny, New York Extreme had a surprise win over the Tauntauns 3-2, which is pretty amazing when the Tauntauns have been a pretty good team and Extreme has been struggling. But in this event, it seemed the Tauntauns had some struggles. So they caught them maybe on a catch game. But, props to them for putting up that win. The Sea Dogs then beat New York Extreme 2-0. And that kind of probably helped keep them from probably getting relegated at the end of the season. So that was pretty good win for them. And also, Leverage got a win over Dynasty. That's kind of a shocker. They beat them 3-2. But part of the problem with Dynasty had a rough outing. I believe they won the 3-man event, which we're not going to talk about in this episode. But did that have come at a cost that, did it tire them out? And that seemed to be some of the teams. Maybe they went deep into it. They had some issues with, fatigue going into the rest of the event. We're not going to talk much about the 3-man. I'm going to talk a whole lot about 3-man here in an upcoming episode real soon. So we're just going to take with the main tournament. So that was real good. Also, what was a real positive aspect about the tournament is the weather was fantastic. It was warm, sunny, probably upper 80s, but at least it was dry. I mean, we've watched plenty of Lone Star events, and man, they've been mud holes and basically almost swimming sometimes, and a lot of rain over the past few years with having it in the spring. So moving it to fall seems to have been a very good idea as it worked out quite well weather-wise. Also, I thought the turf or the grass held up pretty darn well for as much playing time, especially for late summer. So the field conditions looked pretty good overall, and I thought that was a big plus also. Teams didn't have to struggle with, something like that as they have in other events. So those are some of the positives I thought with the Lone Star event, and it may be something that we look forward in the coming years as this does become maybe the season-ending event, or it gets pushed back, obviously, to later in the year. It seems that it works out better overall. Most of the people, if you look at talking who played it, haven't been a lot of, nothing but praise for the most part, or they're satisfied with it. Not a lot of complaints. So I think most people liked how the venue carried out. There were some other issues that I think it has to do with the NXL, and I'm going to deal with those again in an upcoming episode on ways to make the NXL better. But overall, I think the event was very well run. It came out very well overall. It was good to see a lot of teams, play well. And like I said, there's a lot of surprises that went on in it that you kind of caught you off guard, which made it interesting. But how did that impact the season rankings? Well, overall, Red Legion did move into the #1 slot. They have 684 points. Paintball Fit is right behind them at 680. So they basically just flip-flopping it, and it's just on the slight differential of things. And Impact, X Factor, and Dynasty now round up the top 5. I'm not too concerned about the points with that. We'll talk about that going into the World Cup event. But that sets up a very interesting World Cup. World Cup, as everyone knows, is a double points event. So who will be the overall season champion probably won't be decided unless we get to the very end of the World Cup event, and it may literally come down to the last point of the tournament because it's pretty tight race right now. A couple of teams have bounced around and moved up and down. So again, the same as what I'm going to discuss here now is with the bottom is with a double points event, anything can happen. A good show on one part, a bad showing on another team's part could very well alter a lot of these positions. But the bottom, well, you know, even with their victories, there's been some minor adjustment. NRG Elite has now moved into the bottom slot with 69 points. Leverage with their win is now in 19th place at 89 points. Had to let this helicopter passing over. New York Extreme is third at 137, and ASG Aftermath is 17th at 176. I would say Aftermath is probably pretty safe, and anybody above that because, again, unless one of these teams would make the Sunday crowd, you know, they'd have to literally go, the bottom three are literally going to have to go 2-2 to not be in those relegation talks. Leverage is definitely by no means not out of it. An 0-4 tournament, and like I said, another team winning or possibly going 2-2 could easily make this list jumbled. But I still think it's going to come down between Elite, Leverage, and Extreme for who's going to get relegated. And going into the last tournament, that has got to be on their minds that they're going to have to all play well to avoid that happening. As for the semi-pro, it's still way too early to really talk about that. Same thing with the pro division. It's literally going to probably come down to the finals on Sunday just to see who is going to advance into the pro rankings. I know BR Factory, I believe, is doing extremely well, but again, it's a tight race between the top 3. And literally it's going to come down to the probably semifinals or finals to decide who's going to get that shot at going to pro, and unfortunately, who's going to get demoted out of the pro division and back into semi-pro or out of the league altogether. But overall, like I said, it was a really good event. I enjoyed watching it. There are lots of interesting things that happened on the field. Again, some of the points were slower, and I don't know if that has to do with the fact that teams are being a little more methodical with their play now, or the fact that the league is getting a little bit more of a parity, and that teams, even though their records may not reflect it, you can't take your mind off things, or you, like some of these teams, there were some upsets, and it can happen. So you really don't have any gimmies in the pro division, and you have to be on guard against letdowns. But it is going to be interesting going into the World Cup, and I, like you, I'm sure we're excited to see what's going to happen here in November as we get near the end of the paintball season for 2025. So with that, it'll be interesting to see over the next 6 weeks or so, do some teams make adjustments with player personnel? Do they stand pat? And we'll see if anything happens that might change how it'll work out for World Cup. And I'll be doing a preview of that probably late October, early November. So be on the lookout for that. And with that, I thank everyone for all your support. And I look forward to seeing all of you on the paintball field soon.